big stretch. Hello, everyone. It is Sunday night, 8 o'clock, and it's time for another broadcast. How the bloody hell are you doing? My name's Billy Kirkwood. Relax. I've never heard of me either. Explain me exactly what happens with Brawcast, or words to that effect. Brawcast is not only put on by these sexy motherfuckers at broadbeardoils.com, telling you all about the amazing stuff they're up to, including all the amazing merchandise you can check out right now over at broadbeardoils.com. But it's about meeting not only our friends, our brothers, or sisters, our wives, or lovers, everyone who wants to be an AKA lover. You can go and check it out. We get to meet people from all the interesting corners of the world. We get to meet MMA stars, we get to meet comedians, actors, we get to meet we've met so many people. We've got to meet ninjas, we've got to meet actors, we've got to meet singers. It's about meeting all these wonderful people, hearing about their journeys through life, whether it be in the creative industries or whatever it is, and we get to know them, and the strangers become friends. That's how it works. Don't forget, you can check out some of the amazing guests we've already had on Brawcast. All you need to do is head over. You can subscribe over or follow on Spotify, check out the YouTube account, and of course, come and see us here each and every Sunday night at 8 o'clock. Shall we get started? I think let's. I tell you what, before we actually kick off, I want to give a big shout out to our friend Ali Hay over at Teuchter Warrior UK in Edinburgh. Make sure to check that out. He is now open and ready for business. Take the family along there. Go and get fit yourself. I went along, won't lie, breathing in my arsehole, but managed to make it around the course a couple of times. So make sure to go and check out Ali. He is now open and ready for business. We actually chatted with him way back at the beginning of lockdown before he'd managed to open up the business. And now, as things are opening up, and hopefully everyone is staying safe and staying sexy, we'll hopefully be out this in a wee while. Shall we get this started? Let's go on about it. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest tonight, what's the best way of putting it? There's so many strings to his bow. Not only is he a stuntman, not only is he an actor, not only is he a comedian, singer, and so much more. The best way of doing this would be meeting Scott and having a chat with him, as well as being a ranger as well. Basically, he's doing absolutely everything under this umbrella. So let's bring him on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Scott Ironside to Brawcast.
Good evening.
Trying to get all your accolades, all the stuff that you're doing, in just one little box was next to impossible, Scott. I'm just thinking you're kind of like myself. You like trying a little bit of everything. I could have phrased that better. I think we all agree. But they're just taking all these accolades, like in terms of you've done acting, you're doing acting, singing, comedian, and now you're also a ranger as well. Now, I'm from the West Coast. That can sometimes mean something else. We might just get, is either going to put the numbers up or put the numbers down? I'm not sure. We'll soon find out. But first of all, we're going to kick off with that because I think it's so important to where you are right now in 2021. I know you what exactly is it you are doing right now, Scott, in terms of helping with wildlife conservation and dealing with animals? What is it you were doing just now?
Well, I started working as a park ranger in about 2017.
Right.
And primarily my job, I mean, park rangers it's a wide and varied sort of career.
I bet.
There's some park rangers that are basically knee deep in the woods and you didn't see them for years. There are other ones like myself that are more education based.
Right.
But the idea is sort of teach the youngsters about the great outdoors. And through that, I kind of got into wildlife rescue as well. So I was basically situated at my ranger station a few years ago, and I had the long started, to be honest. And then somebody came up and went, "You're the beardy wildlife laddie, aren't you?" And I was like, "I suppose." So I've got this bird. Can you fix this bird? I was like, "Well, I'll do my best." So I took in this bird. And it was actually my first rescue, which I still have to this day.
No way.
It's a rook called Charlie. If you head across to my Instagram, you'll see plenty pictures of Charlie.
I've seen you feeding Charlie. Right, okay.
So that kind of started my journey into sort of wildlife rescue. So after that, I started working with the SSPCA. I started meeting folk for the BDMLR. That's the guys that sort of go rescue marine life, like seals, dolphins, whales, that sort of stuff.
Wow.
I was more sort of liaising with them. There was a carry-on a couple of years back, and there was whales trapped in the Firth of Forth. I don't know if you mind that story.
I think I do, yeah.
There was heaps of folk out looking for it, binoculars and everything. So I managed to get an awful lot of social media on this side of the Firth looking for the whales. Wow. So if whenever anything like that comes up for the BDM lab, then I usually get a wee shout or something like that. So I've got loads of fingers into different sort of wildlife pies, if you like. That's not a great way to put it either. But, I've seemed to become a sort of a miniature nexus for a load of different people. So I'm happy to help. It's a really good thing, and it sort of pays off in the local community as well, because it sort of engenders an interest in the youngsters about wildlife, nature, conservation, and with the sort of uprising in forest schools or forestry schools, can park rangers going into your primary schools and stuff and teaching your kids about bug hunting or planting flowers or things like that. It seems to be a more important thing these days, especially during lockdown.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask. I mean, I know how much you get from, working with the kids. It's hard not to call them bairns, just to pick it straight up from yourself, but working with the bairns and really educating those. Now, I know that this kind of brings us full circle, so I guess we can come back to it. From a performance background and having worked in acting and presentation and engagement, has that helped you going in there? Because every park ranger I've talked to that has been enthusiastic about it, big shout out to Joanna Johnson, who's our one down here in Eggleton Park, which is in my old stomping ground. Hi Joanna. Sorry. Anyway, right. But they're all great at really getting across, and in a way that getting across the ideals and engaging with young people in a way that I don't think a lot of hands-on education really does, in a unique way. You guys seem to manage that. Has that helped you from your performance background to now?
Hugely. And what you're saying there is quite right. I find that a lot of the stuff that I teach the kids, it sticks in a lot more than if you've got a bairn in the classroom.
Yeah.
Like when I take the bairns rock pool and all, you've got me like focused on bairns now. That's stuck in my head. The children, the young people. When I take them rock pooling, I'll tell them a silly fact, like about crabs or something. Like, how long can crabs live for? Oh, I've no idea. 100 years. And they go, oh, right, okay. Or like, how do crabs pee? Out their eyes. You're joking, right? But you just give them something silly. Now, it is kind of, some of the crabs do that, but it encourages them.
Do they? Do they pee out their eyes?
They do. Specifically, there's a wee gap in the middle for the pee fit.
Holy shit! I thought that sounds like the weird kind of stand-up I'd come out with. I had no idea. That's amazing. Right? Okay. Sorry.
Basically, I've done it doing for the kids, so it's not like specifically true, right? But it's true enough that it gives them. He must be talking absolute rubbish. We must Google it. So the kids are going back for their session and Googling stuff about crabs, right? So I'm creating that interest.
Okay.
But I love doing it. It's one of the things that it really it pays off. I think getting the kids outside. There are little facts that I'm throwing them, and they do stick, because I've had bairns that come back like after 2 years. Oh, we saw you a couple of years ago, and how many teeth has a snail got? Oh, 20,000. Right, bang on, well done. And they've still retained that knowledge. So,
and they're going to tell little brother, they're going to tell everyone at school. And like you say, during lockdown, because people are getting out there and doing walks and cleanups and all this type of thing, that probably for the first time in a generation, not only the adults, but the kids are sort of enjoying wildlife together. And it's sort of really getting them out there. I mean, I think it's amazing. I'm a West Coast baby. We were from a poor family, Scott. We've got sort of kicked out. There's a forest over there. Go and enjoy yourself. That's basically what we would get. It's cheaper than going swimming. That's all it was. And if you were lucky, you found a puddle big enough, you could go for a swim. Although not the one near ICI. Everybody knows that. Just in case anyone from Ayrshire's watching, we know not to do that. You're going to end up peeing out from your own eyes if you go and swim in that one. We're going to get back to the wildlife side of it in just a wee while, because I know that's one of the recent things that you've been doing. But when you and I first met, you were a stand-up performer. I don't think you were long into it when we met. I think we'd have been up in Aberdeen, which will not come as a huge surprise with your accent, I think. But there's so much more to that. I know that... Oh God, you're right.
But
Was that you calling someone? Is that a call for a specific animal? The whales are going to come in. No, but when we first met, I knew you'd started doing your sort of stand-up journey. You were doing sort of musical comedy, but I know you'd done acting and some film work before we even met. Where did your sort of journey into live performance come from? Because I'm interested to know where the live performance and the wildlife side of it kind of collide.
Right, okay, but we're going deep here, Billy.
Oh, here we go.
Well, no, I started live performance as a kid, like doing the school shows and stuff, and singing, and I think we did like Oliver or something as a kid, and I was Fagin.
I did Oliver.
Did you do Oliver? Who were you in Oliver?
Well, I was the understudy for Bill Sykes, and I was understudy for Bill Sykes, but I ended up being Oliver's granddad. So, well, basically the guy they got this has got nothing to do with anything, but basically the guy that got Bill Sykes kind of could sing but couldn't act. And I was pretty good at acting but couldn't really sing. And they sort of decided that for Bill Sykes you didn't really need to you need to sing. Well, there's two numbers in there. Two numbers that Bill Sykes involved with. Turned out I could sing them well enough. And they were kind of like, fuck, well, we've given it to this guy. So I ended up being Oliver's granddad. Right out with that, I was also the captain in The King and I. Let me ask you a question, Scott. Do you remember The Captain in The King and I, the stage play?
No,
you wouldn't. Because my principal job was to stand on stage and hold an 8-year-old girl dressed like a monkey. That was my fucking job. And whistle. She was embarrassed. I was embarrassed. Apparently her dad thought it was fucking hilarious, but never mind that. But your journey goes from that. That's always where I find it's something that's kind of being lost for a generation is the school shows, getting that taste for live performance. Where did you take it from school? Because that's always the interesting leap. Where did it go from there?
Well, I went and did some training straight after school.
Brilliant.
And then after I qualified, I walked straight into now. No. This is a wee bit embarrassing, but a lot of the parents might know about this. I was the first Scottish Gruffalo.
Holy shit!
Yep. There you go.
Holy shit!
Yep.
Now, I'll take a pause here. If there's any parents watching, we all know the Gruffalo book, but you might not know this, but at the Fringe Festival a good while ago now, the live play appeared at the Fringe and was a sensation. There's a DVD out there somewhere. If you've got kids, find it. It's not dear, find it. But the show itself really grew legs. I mean, that went all the way across the world, and to get a part in that, boom, you were the Gruffalo. Which as well as being the Gruffalo, am I right in thinking you were also one of the narrator? You're also the narrator and the Gruffalo, or are we talking about a slightly different show?
We're talking about a slightly different show. This was the first iteration of the Gruffalo, right?
Yes.
So this was a TIE, or Theatre in Education, as it's called, right? So we basically toured all the schools up and down Scotland for 3 months, and this was just after the Gruffalo had been such a huge success with the book. Yes. Right? So there had been a tour in England with this company, and then the company decided to bring it up to Scotland, and this was my first serious, well-paid acting gig, and I was the Gruffalo, right? So
I don't think it's embarrassing. I don't think it's embarrassing.
Well, it's a bit weird. So I basically had to put on a hairy biler suit, right? They just wanted a fat lad with a beard and a deep voice, so I basically got the job. But the thing was, like, our show was like 20 minutes long. It wasn't a big show, so there was 3 of us. So there was like 3 actors. There was me, there was a lassie who was the mouse, and there was another laddie. He played like the snake, the fox, and the owl. Yeah. And they two, I think, were the narrators, and then I was running about either changing scenery or basically just hulking about in my biler suit. But as I say, the show was 20 minutes. We needed 20 minutes after the show for me to cuddle every child in the audience, because they were obviously huge fans of the Gruffalo, and everybody wanted a cuddle for the Gruffalo. So, like, we'd finish the show, thank you very much, and good night. Okay, super duper. And then I had to go out front and basically hug all these bairns, take a big selfie and everything, right? before we got out the door. So it was a carry on. It was actually a really, really good show. Like,
did you have the green spot at the end of your nose?
I did. I
just checking. I just wanted.
I had the full shebang, Billy.
Just wanted to check we went full method with that. Full
Absolutely.
method with that.
Aye, Al Pacino.
So right. We're doing work and acting jobs. I know that you did. I know you did several different roles of several different iterations. I didn't think I'd be using iterations this time on a Sunday night. Good for me. But where does the trip go? Because there's a lot of diversity here, Scott. I mean, very rarely do you get to say actor, stuntman. How does that come about? I mean, first of all, I saw that you do, sword play. I'm going to pretend I'm a novice in terms of the terminology, in terms of that, but I know where does the stuntman aspect come of that? Because I'd seen you do several different roles. When does it start getting into film for you?
Oh, well, I did a film up in Aberdeen, who a few folk in Aberdeen might know, called One Day Removals. It was a sort of funny Doric movie, which was considered for the Guinness Book of Records for most swear words used in a movie. I think we were slightly beaten by Gary Oldman. He did a film about it was football hooliganism or something in England, and he pipped us to the post for the Guinness Book of Records of swear words. So we had about 550 swear words in the movie.
Fucking Oldman, Gary Oldman.
Every time.
Every
fucking
time, man.
If I ever get a hug at Oldman, he's in so much trouble.
So where does
film?
Right. And where do we go from there?
Well, I moved down the road to Edinburgh, and I've been doing a few bits here and there. Eventually, I met up with my old sword teacher. So during my acting classes, there was a guy called Davy Winter, and Davy Winter was great at teaching me fencing and stage fighting. I met up with him a few years later, and he was running a combat school. Right, so we basically went to him and learned how to do fighting for movies.
Okay,
and it just so happened the next year. So I trained with him for a year. So I became reasonably good. I wouldn't say that I'm brilliant, but I can get knocked on my arse and I can get back up and I can do a quick sword fight and stuff. So Davey, he got us into this movie, and it was basically what we call sword and sandal stuff. Right, so we went along, and I ended up getting the part of the bodyguard for the main guy. So your main guy's like, big, sexy kind of lad, and I'm basically his little fat, funny pal, right, who's a bit mental, right. So that's the part I kind of got. So I've gone for the Gruffalo to some sort of nutcase, people up. So we did a lot of sword fighting, and that was an intensive couple of months. I must have lost about 1.5 stone doing that. But the fights were visceral. We were knocking lumps off each other. It was absolutely mental. And then I kind of went for there, still working with the same boys. We ended up in Outlander a couple of years later. And that was huge.
Now, Outlander was one of the ones I saw on your CV, and I was like, I mean, if anyone is watching and they've never even heard of Outlander, then I'd be surprised. Not only are they filming it, they're filming all over Scotland, aren't they? They're even filming it down my neck of the woods, or they were, more to the point. But it's Amazon. It's a huge hit all around the world. What was the experience like working in Outlander, particularly doing some of the stuff you've been doing?
It was incredible, absolutely incredible. Like, in the previous film I spoke about, we had battles between about 200 lads. This one was 400 to 500 people are fighting at the same time. You've got explosions going off. You've got the film crew running about. You've got horses flying in. It was absolutely mental. There was one particular scene. So it was Sam. Is it Hewen?
Yes.
That's the main guy. I just want to make sure I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Sam, anyway, the main guy, right? So we were fighting. It was the Battle of Culloden we were reenacting, right? So we were there for doing 2 weeks. So the first week I was a Highlander, so I had the beard. Right. The second week I was a redcoat, so I had to shave the beard off, which I absolutely hated. right? Because I've had the beard on since I was 16.
I was about to say, I have never seen you without a beard.
Head on, right?
Oh, no.
You're not going to like this. You ready? Can you see that?
Oh, my God. I would not have picked you out of a lineup.
No!
I would not have picked you out of a lineup.
Absolutely.
I would.
You can tell by my face, I'm not impressed.
I could have hung out with you all day. If you'd have shaved that off, I'd have never recognized you. I'd have never recognized you. Holy shit.
The boys that I was working with, was a boy called James and Tom. They were my stunt man buddies, right? They ripped the piss out of me. They're still ripping the piss out of me to this day, or heaps of that, because everybody knows me with a bit of a beard. And I took the beard off, and they were slagging me left, right, and centre because they're a couple of Ouija's.
Did you get some extra cash? Did you get some extra cash for shaving the beard off?
No.
I had to shave my beard off once, including my wee soul patch that I normally had for a kids' TV show. I got extra bung for it because it hadn't been discussed until the day of filming.
All right, okay.
And he went, "Has anyone spoken to you about the beard?" And it's like, "No. What about the beard?" It's like, it's going to have to come off. Is it now? I'll be right back. I was like, how's about an extra couple of £100? And it was, you remember, Scott, it's like just a wee soul patch. And I'm like, idiots. It literally is going to make no difference to my face. It does. Anyone that's watching, it immediately does. I look like a 5-year-old boy. Oh, look who's chipped in. Look who's dove in. One of our pals. Look at this.
There you go. Hello, Naz.
We'll have a wee chat about Naz later on. But in terms of the beard coming off, in terms of the stunt work, it's very, very physical, very, very skilled as well, because you're doing sword work as well as part of this.
Yeah.
The reason I bring up all this is because Outlander's a huge thing.
Yeah.
For the last, since 2017, I know you've been doing the park ranger work. Where does the interest in wildlife come from? Because I'd never heard you mention it before. We will get to the stand-up portion of this, but I wondered, where does that start coming in? Is that something that's been there for a long time, or was it something that you went, you know something, I quite like a challenge, let's get into it. Where's the wildlife interest come from?
I've always been interested in wildlife, even as a boy. I was picking up birdies and taking them to the local vet and stuff, and like, can please fix this? So I was raised in the country. I was a working class boy, and so like you were saying earlier, like you're basically thrown out of the house. We were as well, basically out into the woods. Come back at 8 o'clock. If you're not come back at 8 o'clock, then we'll basically mark another bairn because we've lost you. So when I started doing the park ranger stuff, it just seemed I got to reinvigorate that love for wildlife.
Yeah,
because I had an avenue for it now.
Right.
Like before, I had to obviously concentrate on jobs and acting and making money and getting a house and just your standard sort of mundane adult stuff. But then when I got back into the ranger and stuff, I was like, right, okay, now we have a vehicle for this passion. So that's how it came about, I suppose.
How did you get into it? Was that a role that came up, or was it like you had to go and do night courses and what have you? Like, I'm only saying because I find it so fast. I'm angling for a job. Who knows in 2021? But what was your route into it though, Scott? I'm interested to know what that was.
Right. I basically seen it in the paper, right, and then I applied because I was in between jobs, and I was like, good. Right. I want to change what I was doing because I worked bars and hospitality and stuff for years and years and years. Because you do that as a struggling actor. You work the jobs that you can bin in 5 minutes and you sort of walk away and walk into an acting job. So, because once you get an acting job, you're there for like maybe 2 months or 3 months. So you kind of take on a thing like a proper career. But then I saw this job. I was like, right, I'm getting older. I need to get myself a serious kind of occupation. So I saw that and I was like, that is brilliant. That's a great fit for me because, as we were saying earlier, I get to perform to people. I still get to entertain people, but there's an education behind it. So I basically applied. I was then whisked off down to Staffordshire to train with the Bushcraft School, right? Now, these are guys who are all ex-military. The lads that run it, there's a guy called Johnny Crockett. He was a captain in the Marines. There's a couple of boys that were in the SBS, a couple of boys that were in the Commandos. They basically take you into the woods, give you a knife, a first aid kit, right? And they say, right, you've got to build your own shelter, you've got to find your own food, you've got to make a fire, you've got to find your own water and purify it, right? So it's good enough for you to drink. And they leave you there, right? And then they bugger off up the road and just sort of, they're chilling out with a couple of beers. And if there's only screaming, then they'll maybe come down the road and help you out. We had a great time doing there. So I'm learning to sort of track animals, learning to make my own fires, as I said. I slept in my own den that I built. You learn knife skills. You're learning about plant identification and stuff. So you really are learning serious survival skills. So when I teach a class about like sleeping in or building a den or building a fire, I'm teaching the kids, I'm like, I have tried this. This actually works. So we're doing like bow drill and stuff like that. There's no lighters, there's no Lynx cans. So, it gets a wee bit more interesting. But Johnny was great. I loved the guys doing there. And I remember one night we were sort of sitting by the campfire after one of our more intense sessions, and I was telling a joke. And you kind of joke about the Scottishman, the Irishman, and the Englishman that get captured by Saddam Hussein. It's the Four Springs duck technique. Do you know that one?
No.
I didn't want to get into the full story, but Saddam Hussein, he gives him a challenge. He says, right, okay, you can go into the garage, you can pick a vehicle to escape, and I'll be shooting cruise missiles at you until you get across the border. And if you get across the border, then you've escaped. Well done. So the Englishman takes a Ferrari, he goes, he gets blown up. The Irishman takes a tank, he goes, he gets hit a couple of times and he gets blown up. And the Scotsman, he says, give me 4 springs and a rubber duck and some duct tape, right? And Saddam Hussein says, are you off your head? He says, just give me the stuff, Saddam, right? So he tapes 2 springs to his knees, 2 springs to his hands. He tapes the rubber duck to his head, right? And then he goes bouncing left, right, he's all over the place, right? The Scud missiles are coming down, they can't hit him because he's just so unpredictable. And he manages to bounce himself across the border. And then the ambassador laddie, he's like, we were watching it through the telescope, man, that's absolutely incredible. How did you manage it? He says, well, it's a survival technique I learned when I was a car salesman in Inverness. He says, what's it called? He says, it's called the Voorsprong dirt technique, right? Now, it's a silly joke, right? I quite like it. I tell that joke around the campfire just for something to do. Johnny was pissing himself laughing, right? Now, he disappeared into the woods. The next day, he comes up to me and he just says, come here. Now, Johnny's a stern kind of lad, and being an ex-military lad, he's got that sort of 50-yard stare. He didn't want to mess with Johnny. He's like, right. Come here. And I was like, okay. And he's like, hold out your hand. And I was like, what am I getting here? Because this is bushcraft, guys. This could be anything I'm getting in my hand.
This could be a head. You don't know.
It could be anything, right? So he says, hold out your hand, right? And then he presents me with this. Right? He has found this floating down the stream in the woods that we were in. He says, it was absolutely incredible. He says, I knew that this was for you, you daft Scottish bastard. Right? So he gave me this, and this has been pride of place in my house ever since.
I've never seen a rubber duck in the wild before. That's incredible. I've never seen a rubber duck in the wild. I was asking because one of the things we do here on Brawcast, that those whales are going to be here any minute. Another one about the one of the things we do here on Brawcast is we like to talk about positivity, and obviously with lockdown, people are thinking about changing careers or potentially. It's just another example of your journey's not set. You can go whatever way you want. It's just your time to do it. So, but that brings us back. Obviously, you continued all the interests that you had. We'll take a little step back in terms of comedy. Now, when you and I would frequent the Blue Lamp. And other places round about that area when we were gigging for the guys up at Breakdown Comedy. Now, in terms of getting into comedy, where was the interest in that? Clearly, you're a man that loves a joke and a pint. Where was the interest coming in that? Was that just an extension on the performing that you'd done before, or was it a genuine interest of, I want to get into stand-up, I want to do, do that fearful thing of standing on a stage trying to make a room full of strangers laugh?
I kind of just wanted to test myself, Billy, to be perfectly honest. I'd kind of done I'd done the singing, I'd done the acting, I'd done theatre, I'd done a bit of film, and there was a couple of my pals I think had been doing stand up, and I just thought I'd give it a go, just to prove to myself, like, if I was going to be any good at it at all, and I found out that I was okay, and I actually remember one of the first nights that I met you. Because like watching you on stage, man, you're like 60 mile an hour lightning. The stuff that comes, like, you think so fast, you're just fleet on your feet, Billy. You're an inspiration, really.
I'm too fast. I'm too fast. It's quantity, not quality. I can assure you that. It's quantity, not quality.
Every time that I've seen you, like, the crowd is in stitches. So I was really pleased to meet you in particular. And I remember one of the first nights, I don't know if it was the first night, but I was playing a song, and in the middle of it, there was a bit about RoboCop, right? And I think you came up to me afterwards, and you were like, "That bit about RoboCop was absolutely brilliant," and you were just overjoyed that somebody had worked that particular scene of RoboCop into a song. So I could see the sort of geek in you there, but I was so pleased because I'd seen you doing so well. So for you to come down and sort of give me a wee compliment, I was like, oh, I was well chuffed that night.
Oh, well, listen, I've always watched comedy like other people watch football. I just want to see my team do well. If they're on the stage, we're all on the same team. I just want a goal in for the bench, that's all. But obviously, like you said, you performed from the Edinburgh Festival. You supported some big name acts from I think Fred McCauley, a friend of the show, Tom Stade, amongst others. What the journey through stand up? Any memorable times from there apart from me and myself, of course? Any other memorable occasions? Any ones that went particularly well, or an odd story, or any ones that maybe went a bit bad? And I mean this with great love, and I am back up there performing in that neck of the woods literally in about 5 days, and I cannot wait. They're an interesting breed, kind of like us lot down here in Ayrshire. They're an interesting breed, marching to the beat of our own drum. And these unique characters up there. Any interesting stories for us?
I really liked supporting Fred McCauley because he was very giving with his feedback, right? Because it was the first time I met Fred McCauley, and he's a legend. He's been doing it for so long. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but he's experienced, is what I'm trying to get across.
He's as sharp as he ever was, funny as he ever was. Just tremendous, tremendous.
So when I heard that I was supporting him, I was like, oh, this is brilliant. So I watched his set. Now, Fred actually, I wasn't expecting him to turn up, but he came in right at doors and he sat through everybody and watched everybody, right? And I wasn't expecting that because a lot of headliners didn't do that.
Some don't, right.
They'll just turn up, do their bit and scoot off, take their money and head home, which is fair play. But I watched Fred and I was like, that's absolutely brilliant. Just watching the stagecraft, the way that he turns a joke, the way he delivers a punchline and stuff, and it's really, really good. So afterwards, I kind of approached him very gingerly, I might add, and I kind of said, like, how you doing, Fred? Lovely to meet you and great to support you. Have you got any feedback? And he was like, I loved your stuff. He says, clean up your accent. He says, I can't understand a bloody word you're saying.
But loves the act. Loved the act, but couldn't make it out bloody word.
Can't understand a fucking word you're saying. But lovely man. I was completely genuine, and I loved working with Stu Hugh as well as another massive on the comedy circuit, and he's brilliant at putting down hecklers and stuff. So I learned quite a bit for him as well. He was like, I think one of them, was a boy chatting in the audience. He says, "Hey man, you whisper like you're sitting in a helicopter." Right, and it ended him just immediately. Okay, so it's been great experience, or it was a great experience. So I tour and run about Scotland and learning you pick up little wee bobs for folk here and there, that you sort of put into your own toolbox, I think.
Yeah. It's, have you ever had? I know it's been a little while. Obviously, it's been a little while for all of us. But ever had any interest to strap on the guitar and get back on stage? Every now and then, do you get the itch?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, like Scotty Forbes was at me a wee while ago, and I know you know Scotty.
Yeah.
He's another great comedian.
Great guy. Love him.
Lovely guy. Very, very funny man. Very funny man. Like I've worked with him loads. And Piper and Byrne and the rest of them, you know, and Granger. But it was, for me, it was just a test to see if I could do it, if I was going to be any good at it.
Right.
I kind of was. I got to support some big names or big names to me. And that proved, I think, enough for me that I could do it. And I think that was enough. I was like, right, that's fine. That's good enough for me. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it again, but I've nothing more to prove to myself. I didn't do it to prove to anybody else. I did it to prove to myself.
Well, just when you thought you were out, we'll pull you back in.
Pull me back in.
Just I can share. Well, which brings us to, I mean, obviously you're still keeping a hand in the acting and loads of other things, but we have to talk about Skinjacker.
Yeah,
we have
please.
to talk about Skinjackers. Why we're here. Very excited about this. I don't know. All I know is what I've picked up on your Instagram. Tell me about this film, Skinjacker, that you're involved with.
It's a Scottish sci-fi horror with Celtic mythology undertones.
Love it.
Right. So it's set in Skye. I've been working with the director and producers. We've created a massive sound stage in the wilds of Fife, the Kingdom of Fife, I should say. Sorry, if there's Fife people watching, I'm going to get in trouble. So it's the Kingdom of Fife. So we've built this massive sound stage. We've built huge sets. We're really, for an independent movie, it's one of the biggest scales I've ever seen. Right, really? We're really investing so much into this. The cast and crew are some of the best that I've worked with in independent Scottish cinema. Dave Izzat, the director, is absolutely fantastic. I've worked with Dave on a few projects now. I just like the stuff that Dave does. He's just really talented, and he's managed to assemble a marvelous cast. One of the guys I'm really excited about working with is a guy called Richard Ashton, who's been in like stuff like The Fifth Element. He's been in Vikings. He's been in Doctor Who. So I'm really excited to meet him. There's other folk I could mention, but I would like you to go and check out the page.
Okay, fair enough. Now, was there an Indiegogo for this setup at one point?
There was, yeah. We managed to just about reach our target. Right. But of course, trying to make a film during COVID has its own challenges. Yeah, of course. Probably the only thing during lockdown or during COVID has its own challenges. I think Dave's mental, to be perfectly honest. This is really tough, but he's doing it. He's pulled it out the bag. We've started filming now.
Wow.
So, yeah. So
I think I've got a little teaser image. I think I've got a little teaser image.
There you go. That's the stuff.
There we go. Skinjacker. Already, that looks pretty bloody impressive. We can check that out.
A trail there now, an explosion. So I don't want to reveal too much about it because I'll get in trouble. But it's really cool. It's a nice, if you're a fan of like The Thing, if you're a fan of Alien, this is basically going to be a Scottish version for you.
Two of my favorite films. Two of my hands down favorite films. And like you say, it's not there's no effort spared for this. You guys are going all out. No corners aren't being cut. The time is being put in.
Yeah. The equipment we're using is top notch. The people we're using is top notch. The sets look absolutely fabulous. You are really going to be impressed with the production values. I really want to tell you more about.
No, you can't. Don't. Do you know something? When it's coming near release time, maybe we'll grab another chat. Maybe we can.
That'd be great. That'd be super.
Maybe we can go
filming on the 10th. I'm going to be playing PC Hill as my character.
The Polis.
I'm going to be playing the Polis.
The Polis.
Aye.
Scott, from the Gruffalo to the Polis. How the mighty have fallen.
Well, I'm basically saying you can't park that air, son. You're going to have to shift that and you know.
Is that you?
That's basically me then.
So it's a big part in the film, yeah.
It's kind of a bit part. I'm working as a production assistant, and Dave's been very kind enough to sort of lend me a wee part because I'm so busy sort of rangering, teaching, and doing wildlife rescue and stuff like that. So he did offer me a larger part, but I had to very kindly turn him down and just accept the smaller role. So I'm basically just going out to play for a day or two.
Right.
But that's enough for me just now.
Yeah, but you're also learning other parts of the industry and bringing your expertise to the production as well. So there's a little bit of yin and yang here. So it sounds like it's pretty good. Sounds like it's pretty good to me. So Skinjacker, I know we're just starting filming. With Hollywood being the way it is and announcing films coming out on this date and that date, do we know when we're looking at maybe roughly having this thing hitting the? I assume it's going to be for on-demand services or streaming services. I mean, DVDs and what have you, I'm sure it'll be available. Are we any time frame on when this stuff's going to be coming out?
I think I'm not sure, but I think it's probably going to be next year.
It's going to be next year.
We're going to film the hell out of it this year, and then the guys are going to go into post-production. There's going to be a ton of special effects. So obviously, that's a very laborious process.
Yeah.
So the boys are going to want to do as good a job as they possibly can. So I can see it as maybe a summer or late autumn release next year.
Wow, it's crazy how these are. And then there's me going. I can write a dick joke on the way to a gig, and it's done. It's done. Do you know what I mean? It's just it's a completely different world. Well, look, Scott, brings us back to the wildlife aspect of it. One of the things that I think is amazing is how happy you seem. How settled you seem. You're saying that you've moved into that neck of you moved actually, I never thought I'd hear you moving away, but where is it you're living again? Because you said it is one of the most masculine sounding names I think I've ever heard of it. Where is it you're living? Gorebridge?
Gorebridge. So it's in Midlothian.
Yeah.
And it's a lovely place. Love it.
And you're bringing the work home still to this day. You're bringing
I've built a couple of aviaries out the back, and we've got incubators and cages. So my house is basically a zoo. I've got beasties just our way. So if you think of sort of Teuchter Ace Ventura, that's me now.
Listen, when Skinjacker holds production, I think the next one has to be Teuchter Ace Ventura. I honestly think I think we've hit on a winner there, mate, to be honest with you.
Davey Ventura.
Look, Davey Ventura. Look, and if you need a partner, you know what I am. I don't mind.
Absolutely. Anytime.
I'm terrified of budgies. I'll tell you that. Right. Fucking I've held snakes. I've had tarantulas crawling in my hand. But you see those people that have budgies just flying around their living room, they can fuck off. I hate budgies. Cannot stand it. Just flapping. I've had bats flapping to my head. But you see a budgie just whistling by your ear like your ears are cuttlefish. I fucking hate that. So if we can make sure there's no budgie scenes in Davey Ventura, then that's a deal. Scott, it has been such a blast. Everyone's got to look out for Skinjacker. There's another little look at us there. And of course, I've got to say, head over to check out Scott's Instagram as well. He's doing some amazing stuff and the wildlife side of it as well. These really, you blown away that your wee heart will melt when there he is feeding a bird. And just like, I'm wasted my life. I couldn't decide what I was going to watch on Netflix today. There'll be him saving a species. And hopefully, maybe, mate, we'll get to share a pint or a stage or something again very, very soon.
That would be great.
That would be great. That would be great.
Right, I'll tell you what, very much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
It's been a delight. It really has been a delight, and you'll have to keep us up to speed with what's going on with Skinjacker. I tell you what, Scott, I'm just going to quickly pop you back in the green room, and I'll wrap things up here. Everyone, our very special guest tonight, the wonderful Mr. Scott Ironside. Right, that's all we've got time for. Make sure to head over, check out Scott's Instagram. Some amazing stuff over there. It's brilliant to catch up with him. And just sword work, stuntman, acting, comedy, the Aberdonian Dr. Doolittle is what we just spoken to. Do you know what I mean? I've lied on every CV I've ever had. I don't have half those skills. Clean driver's license, wildlife, budgie wrangler. I could have made that sound better. That sounded dirty. That's all we've got time for this episode of Brawcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure to go and check out the archive over in Spotify. Make sure to subscribe to us, of course, on YouTube as well. We're easy to find. Brawbeard, will pop up. And we've got more amazing episodes to come very, very soon. Also, if you fancy it, it's the time of year for it. Head over and check out some of the amazing merchandise that is currently over at brawbeardoils.com as well. There's some brand new tank tops and some amazing stuff. Get one of these bad boys. Not my nipple. Get one of these long sleeve shirts and stuff as well. Some incredible stuff over there. Get it for the bearded or non-bearded individual of your life. We're equal jaw opportunity folk here at Brawbeard. That's all we've got time for. Sorry, it's a bit weird at the end. Don't know what's going on. I'm Billy Kirkwood. It's the part of the show where we have to see if I can start the video without looking at it. I've got a tweet deck over there, but I haven't used it. We'll see you next time. Look after yourselves. Have yourself a banging week. And remember, don't be an arsehole. Bye-bye.